on, guys? This is Mr. Teej66's Movie Reviews. I am Mr. Teej66. In honor of the new Mission Impossible film Fallout, which will be coming out next week, I thought I'd go back and review all the Mission Impossible movies, starting with 1996's Mission Impossible. Now, this is my absolute favorite of the series still, and the reason why, I think it's because it's more of an old-fashioned suspense thriller. I mean, there's really... this review will contain spoilers, so just letting you know, spoiler warning. So if you haven't watched this movie, I would absolutely recommend it, but spoilers are coming. There's really not a lot of action in the movie. It's more old-fashioned suspense and, intrigue and, who do I trust? What's going on? All that stuff. The plot is actually very complicated. Tom Cruise is Ethan Hunt, of course, IMF agent who is part of a team that is sent in to try... There's a guy who's going to steal a knock list, which is basically a record of all their deep cover agents in other countries. And, there's a list that has their real name and then a separate list which has the code names. And those two together can match them up. And then, obviously, the bad guys can know who they really are and, kill them or torture them or do terrible things. But they try to stop this one supposed rogue agent from stealing it at a party in Prague. But turns out there's more to it than that, and that's really all I want to say about the movie. Twists and turns abroad. As I said, this movie is directed by, is more of a suspense thriller than an action movie. It's directed by Brian De Palma, who is, a big fan of Alfred Hitchcock, and it's very evident in this film the way, it almost feels like a film from the 60s. Like, take away the internet and, the more gadgets they have, and it really could be a movie from the 60s. Actually, the gadgets even could probably work. Tom Cruise is fantastic in this movie, as he always is. He does the action sequences very well, performs majority of the stunts himself. There's a great sequence where, he has this gum, which is basically a bomb or, an explosive device. Red light, green light, it's become kind of a famous phrase, where you mash them together, you throw them at something, and it blows up. Well, at one point... he blows up a fish tank, jumps out of this little restaurant. It's all done in incredible slow motion, which a lot of, the kids say might find kind of corny, but it's a really great shot where you just, in slow motion. I mean, and the Blu-ray I have here, they show some behind-the-scenes footage of that scene being shot, and it is done so fast that it is amazing. Tom Cruise has to have split-second reflexes in order to avoid getting injured, and it is absolutely wonderful to watch. The other sequence, which of course has gone down in cinema history, is the break-in at CIA. Parodied a million times over, but it is a fantastic sequence where he has to, come down on ropes to a sound and vibration-proof room. It is absolutely suspenseful, even though there are a few points where, basically sound, if you make a noise above a certain pitch, the alarm will go off. There's about 20 different times where they make up noises which are clearly above, what would set off the alarm, but you have to sort of take it for granted, and it's not really that big a deal. The other cast is pretty good, too. Jon Voight plays Fred Phelps, Jim Phelps, who was in this TV show. I forgot to mention this based on a TV show from the 60s, although really it doesn't have much to do with the TV series other than some of the characters' names. But Jon Voight plays Jim Phelps, who is the leader of Tom Cruise's team, and spoiler warning, it turns out he's the bad guy. And, when I first saw this movie back in 1996 on VHS, God, I'm getting old. It's been a long time. That generally surprised me. Now, they've done that kind of twist before in a million other movies. May not be as original as it once was, but at the time, I was shocked. And apparently, the original actor to play Jim Phelps, Peter Graves from the TV show, was actually offered to play Jim Phelps again for the movie, and he refused because, when he found out Jim Phelps was going to be the villain, he was not happy with that at all. Those two characters are pretty... I have to mention Ving Rhames in one of his earliest performances, who's just awesome as Luther Stockwell. He's basically the computer hacker. He's just got that great voice. He's just so cool. So laid back, He's not the kind of guy you would think would be a computer hacker, but that's what I love about this movie. Goes against the grain and says, could you think it'd be some nerdy guy with glasses, kind of like me a little bit, even though I'm not really that bright. Anyway, but... he is absolutely fantastic. Jean Reno is in the movie. He plays a helicopter pilot. He does good for what he's given, but he really doesn't have that meaty of a role. I wish his role was a little more beefed up. overall, yeah, if you're looking for an old-fashioned suspense thriller, this is definitely the way to go. If you're looking for action, there's not really a whole lot of action. I mean, except at the end, but what an action sequence on the train. That has some early CGI, which I must say, the CGI in this movie holds up for the most part. You know, it's not, probably because it's not really overused, but as for flaws, the only real, I mean, there's a couple plot holes. Even watching the movie again, you know, the plot in this movie is incredibly complex. In fact, so much so that I remember at the time, a lot of reviewers and even, you know, movie fans were just like, what is going on? It's so confusing. And to be fair, I was confused too the first time I saw it, but I still liked the movie, but I was like, okay, I'm really lost at what's going on. Watching the movie again, for the most part, it holds up pretty well. There's still some plot holes, which I don't understand, aren't really tied up that well. The only other big, major problem I have with this movie is some of the characters, particularly Ethan's team at the beginning, they're not really that well fleshed out. You know, you really don't know much about them. Even Emilio Estevez has a small part in the film. And spoiler warning, he gets killed off. And I was like, like he's not even credited in the film, I don't think. I don't understand why. Was he embarrassed to be in this movie? I have no idea. The only other big flaw I can think of is the internet in this movie is dated as shit. You know, I'm almost 37. I remember when the internet looked like that. You know, chat logs and, you know, there's one point he goes, internet access. And it was like, yeah, nowadays you just go on the internet like that. But the screens is a little like, oh God, it's just aged so badly in that respect. But, you know, it's become kind of like a period film, I guess, so in some ways. That's frightening to think. But overall, I would give this movie probably an 8.9. I think this movie's a blast. It's still my favorite of the series, based more on characters and, you know, suspense and intrigue, not, you know, blowing stuff up. I mean, I like the other Mission Impossible films too, but this one is just more special to me. Maybe because it's the first of the series, and I have fond memories of seeing it when I was a kid, but yeah, it's still my favorite of the series. But anyway, that's my review this week. Hopefully I'll be back soon with Mission Impossible 2. This is Mr. Teej 66, and I will see you next time.